Six friends have a spiritist session on Zoom, which leads them to live through a series of terrifying experiences. When an evil spirit invades their homes, they begin to wonder what they can do to survive the night. That's why today on the Summarizer, Host. It all starts with our friend Haley, who while preparing for the Zoom meeting hears strange noises and begins to investigate the apartment, until Gemma, our other protagonist, throws things out the window to let her enter the chat. Yes, a bit impatient. At that moment, Haley tells Gemma that she had planned to do something weird with the Zoom at night and was going to tell her in a while. After a few minutes, the rest of the friends start to join the conversation. And that's it, we already have 5 characters in front of the camera. A few minutes later, after our friends try out filters on their faces and we see a looping wallpaper on Caroline's screen, which will be important later, a man appears now, our friend Teddy. After Haley had already told her friends about the paranormal meeting they were going to have tonight, Teddy presents his cursed object ready for the next hours. To remember the cool moment, Haley takes a picture of the computer. Why didn't she take a screenshot? Nobody knows, but that camera is going to be quite important as the movie progresses, so let's keep it in mind. At one point, Salen, the lady in charge of giving a little excitement to this movie, joins the meeting. This woman will explain how the paranormal meeting will take place and how our friends will be able to contact dead people through certain objects. For this, she was going to ask them to imagine that they are forming a circle and are connected with a thread to a door. As it could not be missing, we have 2 friends who agreed that every time the strange lady said astral plane, they were going to take a shot of drink, to laugh for a while at her. Now the setup for the paranormal event begins. Everyone was concentrating to achieve the connection until Teddy's girlfriend appears and she ends up taking the only man in the room. Salen asks if they are feeling something and suddenly they see a light in Radina's chamber, a light that was not there before. Also, a noise is heard in Haley's house and a loud noise is heard again, but no. Nothing happened. It was the delivery man who delivered the food to Salen. After this, Haley feels a hand on her shoulder and Gemma feels something graze her neck and everyone starts to panic. Now, Salen asks if anyone came to her mind with a name, and Gemma says her mind thought of Jack, and when they ask her who was it, she answers that he was a boy at school, a boy who was very good but who had hanged himself. Suddenly, something falls in Salen's house and she leaves the meeting. After this, our joker Gemma tells us that actually she hadn't felt anything, but it was a joke. Yes, a terrible joke, particularly in a horror film. Although not much time has gone by since the session started, they decide that it's a good time to cut the session and take the opportunity to go to the bathroom. Gemma continues taking the situation as a joke, and while they are arguing about the seriousness of the matter, Haley is dragged back with her chair. After this, she decides to go investigate the apartment, while her friends suffer from their computers. Now there are noises in Caroline's house, and everyone suffers for her. And so, we have more and more noises. Either the ghosts like to make noises, or the ghosts are blind and bump into everything they find in their path. After this, Caroline has no better idea than to open the door and go up to the attic, because yes, if we're going to be scared, let's be as scared as much as we can be. But no, in a fit of common sense, she prefers not to go up. Ah well, in the end, she decides and goes back up. Once up there, there's interference in the signal, and that's why Caroline is terrified. But now, it's Haley's turn, who also gets interference because she starts to have a spirit nearby. And just in case, before running away or calling the police, she decides that the best thing to do is to take a picture. And a hanged man appears. At this point, Emma's cup shatters, because yes, the director thought it might be a nice touch, and all her friends start to freak out. After this, Haley calls Seelen to tell her what has just happened, and to help them with this, to which she tells them just to stay calm. But there, the girls tell her that Gemma lied, and Jack never really existed. And there's the problem. Apparently if they summon a fake spirit, they create a sort of avatar, and anything can take his form. From a simple spirit to a deadly demon that comes straight from hell to attack us. Now we have to reverse the situation, and greet the spirit to go away. So, they go to ask the spirit if he wants to give a message, and suddenly the light goes blinking. They ask him if he is a friend, and again all the lights go on and off and everyone panics. Now, our friends imagine that they cut the cord of the connection, and that way they expel the spirit. But no, if he had left, the movie would have lasted half an hour.
Yes, that's true.
Radina worries because her boyfriend is missing and no one knows where he is. Suddenly, Caroline starts banging herself against the screen in a rather violent way. Emma scares everyone with a strange face floating in the middle of the apartment, and with the interference reappearing. At this, Emma comes up with the idea of throwing flour in the apartment to see the spirit, who has no problem and once he catches her, lifts her up in the air and slams her to the floor. Now Radina's boyfriend shows up, but not in the best way. The interference appears again, and suddenly Radina is pushed until drops of blood appear. Caroline appears again on camera, banging her head against the computer, while asking for help, all bloody. Now the friends argue and Haley is dragged out of the apartment with violence. At all this, Emma is still crying non-stop 10 minutes ago, and Gemma decides to go outside and disappears from the Zoom. And you remember Teddy? Well, he reappears, and while his friends are mostly dead, he doesn't understand anything until the spirit arrives at his house. Now a terrifying woman appears, then a demon appears and Jenny is lifted up, only to die and fall into the pool. At this, Teddy tries to escape, and if instead of lighting with his cell phone, he lights with a lighter because yes, it is much more terrifying. While our poor character is crawling on the floor, the object that we had seen at the beginning appears and everything catches fire. Now the only one left is Emma, who yes, is still crying and is already starting to tire us out a bit, to the point of wanting someone to kill her right now.
For Christ's sake, will you just shut your trap?
Once the spirit arrives at her house to try to see it, she throws a cloth over him, but to no avail, and just like her friend, she ends up dying. But this does not end here. Gemma, who had managed to escape from the house, arrives at Haley's apartment, and while all the cameras are disconnected, she is left alone and dies when a bottle crashes on her head. But no, it's not over yet. Gemma survived the bottle, but the spirit is still there, and the final battle occurs. Gemma sets out to find the spirit in a scene very similar to the beginning of the movie. And unbelievably, Gemma finds Haley alive. And yes, she elbow salutes her for the pandemic, because even in the worst of times, we don't have to forget to take care of ourselves. Haley starts taking pictures so she can see the spirit and maybe in some future become famous on Instagram. But no, the last picture, let's say, ends with our protagonist. So that was the summary of Host. Comment what you would like me to summarize for next videos, and see you later.
Okay, bye.